Reflection, Anticipatory Grief, Dana Edwards, August 15, 2022. Counseling 6331, Grief and Loss Counseling, Houston Baptist University, Dr. Jubert. Anticipatory grief refers to a feeling of grief occurring before an impending loss. Typically, the impending loss is the death of someone close due to illness. Tips for dealing with anticipatory grief. The first tip is to allow yourself to feel and grieve. It's okay to begin the grieving process before your loved one actually passes away. The second tip is to express your pain, talk about it, grieve openly, talk to people who will help you process that pain. The third tip is to spend time with your dying loved one. Since you know that time is ending, it's a great time to spend quality time with them, talking, praying, laughing. Any amount of time you can spend with your dying loved one is good. The next one is to let children express their grief. A lot of times we try to shield children from grief. The best thing to do is talk to them about the death that is about to occur, allow them to visit and talk with their loved ones, and to allow them to grieve and to show their emotions because someone is getting ready to pass. The third one is to nurture your religion. It's a big thing to use all the tools and keys of your religion and your spirituality to help you call upon your higher being, to be able to pray, to be able to commune with other members of your community who can help you get through the grief process. And the last one is to take advantage of holistic methods of coping. Whatever your holistic method may be, your spirituality, forms of relaxation, massage, exercise, whatever method helps you cope is beneficial to your mental health. On this slide, we're going to talk about the effects of anticipatory grief on the bereavement process. There does seem to be some evidence, particularly from the studies of Parks, 1975 and 2010, that people who had some advance warning of pending death did better when assessed at 13 months post-death than did people who do not have this advance warning. However, not all studies draw the same conclusion. Some studies find that anticipatory grief did not ameliorate or foreshadow the bereavement process. Worden, 2018. Effects on anticipatory grief, bereavement process. The grieving process begins early during anticipatory grief because you are aware that your loved one or friend is about to pass. So you begin mourning earlier than if someone passed without warning. So you can work on the task of your grieving process and being without this person at an earlier rate. The next point is there's an awareness and acceptance that the person is going to die. This can be positive or it can be detrimental. Knowing a person is going to die does not necessarily mean that you will do better after the person actually passes away. There also can be a denial that the death is going to happen, even in the event where a person has been informed that their loved one is terminal and that they're going to pass. Sometimes they're still in denial, or still holding out hope, still praying that this is not going to happen, so they do not go into the grieving process any earlier. The next one is that separation anxiety based on the length of period of the anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief in that is the doctors or medical professionals give you a certain length of time that your loved one will still be with you before they pass away. It is not written in stone. It can be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. So a lot of times the anxiety increases as each day, hour, month goes by without actually knowing exactly when the ending is coming, but just knowing that it is. So that increases the anxiety in people who are going through the process of anticipatory grief. Also, during this period, you get a personal awareness of death for yourself, and you begin to think about that you may be going through the same process in the future. So that's another effect that anticipatory grief has on the bereavement process. And then you begin to agonize on what your world will be like even before your loved one passes away, because that's your new reality. That's going to be your new reality. Sometimes it can seem selfish thinking about yourself, but it is a reality. You're going to have to go through life without that person. So it could be a positive that you are thinking about what your future is going to look like without them. The next one is taking care of unfinished business and expressing negative and positive feelings. Taking care of unfinished business does not necessarily mean insurance and wills and final arrangements. It means actually talking with your loved ones and expressing negative and positive feelings. This can help you in the long run after your loved one actually passes away. Support groups during this time can be beneficial. It allows you to talk with people who are going through the same process or who have been through the process and can give you information and tips on how to get through the anticipatory grief process. We talked about this a little bit in the previous slide, and I thought it was important enough to note again that one of the difficulties in anticipatory grief is too long of a time period. When a person has a long time period within their anticipatory grief, they can withdraw emotionally long before the person dies, and this can make towards an awkward relationship or no relationship at all. Uh, and in that, the opposite can occur. The longer the terminal person lives, it sometimes begins to give the soon-to-be bereaved, hope that they're not going to pass away and that this is a mistake or a miracle. So family members move too close, and they have a hard time letting go when the person finally passes away. Anticipatory grief, personal reflections. I can relate to this topic because my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer and he passed away after a 2-year battle. So you have a 2-year period of chemo treatments, radiation treatments, doctor's appointments, all of this still knowing that the end is inevitable. Basically, in the last year, we had around the clock care. It was rewarding, but also exhausting. It's an honor to be able to care for your loved ones who are are going to die, but it's also a humbling and sad experience in my personal opinion. But it is an opportunity to say goodbye, to have long talks, to spend quality time, to talk about God, to talk about the promises of heaven, to talk about living right so, we see each other again, to talk about appreciating life and the time that we do have with our loved ones. Definitely, I'm grateful for moments of the long goodbye, but I can also say that knowing did not make the process any easier after his death. It it was still hard. I don't know if I grieved before because I spent that time caring for him. So knowing can benefit you, knowing can also be detrimental, or knowing your loved one is going to pass away can have no effect on the bereavement process, in my opinion.